Okay. Please tell me the microphone is working this time. All right, good. It looks like it. So, time to see if... Oh, man, I gotta stop listening to this guy. Okay. Since I have to think about, like, is this for myself to take notes on my own creativity, whatever that is, or is this video to be like, how do I help you as an artist, as a writer, as a creator? Yeah, because thank you. Happy New Year, Ben Rose. Because I'm thinking, like, how's it going? Welcome. This is a live stream. This is, me having a conversation with you. So, you know who I am. You don't know who I am. Let's see what happens. So my name is Sky Ainsworth, and I'm an aspiring writer. And now I realize, like, okay, I can get into playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I've just been consuming a lot of the material through reading, and, like, so far, the three core books, and acquired Mordekainen's Tome of Foes, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and now I'm just finishing up Storm King's Thunder, and read through the Artificer, like the previous edition before it was released, changed to this current creation, and then somebody left. The whatever you want to talk about, but, like, so what have I read about? So, like, I'm reading, like, about just a lot of the mechanics. So what do you want to talk about? And you want to talk about playing D&D and stuff like that? Actually, did I edit content description? I need to. Who else? So, oh yeah, the TT. Apologize for the dead air, as I'm writing my description of what I'm about to hook everybody else up with. All right. Okay. Let's try this, please. All right. You can check out my description. I'm down to one. Sorry about that. So, what do you want to talk about? What am I about? Let me go get something to drink. Let's talk about life. Okay. What to talk about? What do you guys want to talk about? I read a lot of books. I read a lot of. So if you're tuning in because you want to talk about gaming, tabletop role playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, and game mastering, like this is the like it could be part of the stream because I need to talk and be entertaining. And how do I maintain the audience of the largest audience? So I just wrote out a lot of keywords for whatever search. So ideally, like whoever tunes in, you're interested in hearing what I have to talk about. And so I have to think like, all right, well, what's a long-winded topic that I can give to you, the audience, based off of these keywords and things that like if you're searching for this thing on New Year's Eve, 2021, I'm going to tune in and listen to this guy. And why am I going to do this? At this or on this night. So what point? Like, well, I'm an aspiring author, so I got some books I want to sell. I got TV shows I want to create. The add the description. Like television shows I want to create, and one of those, which I might as well get off the top of my head, is this TV show called A Gang of Daggers. So what is A Gang of Daggers? A Gang of Daggers, Daggers. It's the idea of inner city United States of America, and the fantasy, the underrepresented and under explored stories and lifestyles of different cultures and I gotta add the hashtags. So, and the, oh boy. So the purpose of the hashtags is not to necessarily be, well, anyways, when you're a writer, like, what are you trying to do with your work? And the reason why you're worried about what you're trying to do with your work is work covers a lot of different ideas, different perspectives and whatever. And I'm trying to make money off of telling people about that, because people want to tune in and hear like, hey, well, tell me this, tell me this, tell me that. I'm giving you my attention. I'm giving you, I'm putting money into your time. You are now part of my time. What's going on, buddy? What do you have to sell me? It's like, I have to bring benefit and joy, to you in your life in some way. Why? Because, well, that's what writers and entertainers do. It's like, that's our point is, we have your attention, and even if like in the case of stand-up comedy, so that's something I've been, I've been exploring comedy with Chris Hardwick and the Nerdist program, and it's wonderful because it's just a very broad spectrum exploration of comedy and the comedy industry and how do you engage in the comedy of Hollywood and so the idea of this show, Gang of Daggers, why would Hollywood be interested in this show is I said in inner city United States of America, like New York City or Los Angeles or maybe someplace in Texas. I mean, but like just like a high density population, um, and the and even Florida and Mississippi, and um, because part of the nature of the show is um, you have the one world where everybody's on Earth and everyone's like, hey, just walking around having the normal life. But there's a hierarchy. There's a totem pole to um, the society in the high school, and just this high school is just the microcosm of just like how there's people who are like socially at the top and people socially at the bottom and everybody in between, and just like the relationships between all those people, and even just like in my case, I want to get to the point of like, yeah, you got gangs and you got fighting. Like it's like yeah, like in the hallways or on the streets, like that you'll just see these guys just duking it out. And the nature of the show is that there's different storylines that you're seeing of these different kids in this high school. And then it just so happens that one of these kids happens to discover a book with magic in it, and he's able to transport to another world. And he gets there and he realizes like, okay, what's going on? What's this? What am I seeing? And book recommendations, I'll give you some. I might as well give you them right now. So book recommendations. I definitely Lord of the Rings. I read Raymond Feist. Like a lot of his earlier stuff, all the way through. Farley Mowat. Just all as much stuff of his as you like. And the I also recommend for check out Dr. Wayne Dyer for like sort of life coach and just like, oh, here's a just a positive way to look at life and challenges. So why what's the other reason why I'm making this New Year's Eve sort of live stream is because like, well, why are you searching online on YouTube to watch this video? Like, well, I'm going through life, I'm going through challenges. It's New Year's Eve. I want to like just check this out, or some later time I'm checking this out. The Farley Mowat is like a lot of his work is just like, well, here's the challenges of the environment and like just trying to survive in the environment, and like just by the numbers and just understanding like, well, where's the resources and how to get to them. So Gang of Daggers. Anyways, I read a lot of C.S. Forrester, like the Hornblower series. So for gaming, this is the other reason why, like, how do I explain naval, like, sort of warfare in the life of a sailor? If players want to, understand that, and what's the thing that like works for me? Like, and from a warship in the age of sail and cannon, and just like high technology, like what can we do? Hornblower. It works. It's like just get a crew of guys, and what can you do with that crew of guys? And like, all right, now it's time to battle. Like, okay, so what do we do? The because as a dungeon master, like, okay, can you convey this to the players? So, anyways, book recommendations. I read Raymond Hoyt's Japan's War, which is an interesting Japanese from 1845 to 1945. I also read this guy, General Mellenthin. He was the German high officer commander for World War II, and he fought in these. It's called Panzer battles, and it's like with the same book that General Norman Schwarzkopf read before the Gulf War. And it's a pretty good, interesting way of like what are the tactics that we use, the Germans use to like just be dominant in all these different battlefields. So I like the strategy and just understanding like what's going on. Book recommendations. Does that answer your question, Wolfers? What else are you interested in? I read Anne Rice, which is like, it's just the Vampire Chronicles, but I mean, if that's your thing, and it was just like, well, it's something new I hadn't tried. And like, all right, well, how far can I go? And like, you're welcome. Like how far Anne Rice could I read? Like, well, I heard one of the audiobooks with the parents. It's like, no, we need to fast forward past this. So, but there's stuff for school that it wasn't bad. Read Kon-Tiki by Thor Heyerdahl. Like really neat. Like, a bunch of scientists want to rebuild a balsa raft and sail across the sea, and it's like, yeah, it works out. It's pretty cool. Pretty rough, because they barely know what they're doing, and like they landed like. What else? I read the Hardy Boys, the 1980s edition, which is it's like a pair of guys, like they got up through basic whatever fisticuffs. They get a cool van, but then they're like, hey, well, we got explosions going on. We're in a castle in the Middle East or like some European country, and like, oh, okay, like this is like one of the later books. I'm like, oh, okay, it's like these guys are in a warfare sort of situation, and you start from the beginning, like, okay, this is like just the writer just figuring out how do I build this up, how do I create this for the reader of what these guys are doing. So like, I could dig that of take them from like, they're good kids, they got this good background, they know what they're doing. Now, all right, let's give them guns. let's give them challenges in life. So, all right, and I'll turn to gaming, tabletop gaming, role playing games, like why you should play tabletop games. Like this is also my long haul pitch to teach people, encourage people, like, hey, check out tabletop gaming, role playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, other TTRPGs, tabletop role playing games, where you have one person who is the game master, and then a group of people who are the players. So what am I describing? Like, the idea is that you have the one against the many, but the challenge is the rules between you two. And with the tabletop games, Dungeons and Dragons in particular, it's the presentation to the gamer, the person playing the game. I would say to somebody right now, do you play a game with a game console or on the computer where it's you assume the role of like some person, and you have like through the graphics on the screen, like, all right, this is the story, this is what I'm going through. Like, yeah, like whatever sort of thing, like some people engage in those games, some people don't. So Dungeons and Dragons is a party game. That's the other thing to keep in mind. And the reason why it's a party game is because you want to set up situations where people, they're in the moment and they think of funny things to say, and you're laughing. And the reason why you're getting to that point is because your brain is thinking faster, because you're thinking in terms of like, what information are you giving me? So what, how do I need to solve this situation? How do I need to solve this problem? And the reason why is because Dungeons and Dragons has like the 3 pillars of gameplay. What are pillars of gameplay? It's combat, exploration, role playing. Combat. I see an enemy. I want to hit them with my sword. Let's roll dice and look at it. The paper sheet in front of me. All right, what do this random chance mean? But I have these numbers that help me with random chance. Do I succeed? And you just go by the map from there. Exploration. I'm in an environment. I'm in a place where, hey, I want to climb that wall. I want to get on top of that building. Pick open that lock. Do whatever. I want to talk to somebody, and so anyways, I select lock picking skills. Role playing. So I'm interacting with the character to get information. I want to persuade that person or intimidate that person into submitting to my will, and I'm going to roll the dice, and they'll help me determine it is working or not. The AI dungeon similar to Dungeons and Dragons, but the AI game. Okay. What sort of games are we talking about, Wolfers? The idea that the dungeon master is I'm telling a story for you. I'm helping you tell a story, and here's a rule set of what happens in the story that I tell you. That sort of personality you want to try to engage, because you want the players to feel like, okay, I can, because there's a difference between long players and new players. If you're just trying to get somebody into it, the idea you're trying to get through to them is that you're just accepting this adventure, and that I'm telling to you. Now it's time to roll the dice. Okay, and the other players are yeah, we're helping you experience this, because hopefully they're more experienced players. So it's if it's somebody new walking into a game, but what am I trying to explain? I'm losing my train of thought. I apologize. So being a dungeon master in games. If you want an idea of AI, I can give you. Check out Caprica and their concept of how does AI appear, and it's an interesting roundabout way that to me makes a lot of sense, because I've always been wondering well, what's AI? What's the limits of AI? What can AI do? And it's okay, the concept now of how do you the Cylons just develop his personality and hey, well, now we're going to war with the humans. Where does it come from? I think they did a good idea of explaining that. So what can I talk about? So being Dungeons and Dragons, it's like of fireworks just went off. So Dungeons and Dragons, you are telling a story to players, and you are saying well, here's the environment you're in. You're on the high seas. You're climbing a hill. You're up, just whatever, way up high altitudes. Now, what if you're way down deep under the ocean, and the pressure of the ocean is upon you? And can your body handle that? Can you build a machine to help you handle that? And it's just how do you interact with this environment? Like, what if you have access to magic? Okay, like what is magic? How do I explain magic? How do I help a player understand magic? Well, here's a whole rule set that you understand. Like, so this, then that can happen. What things need to happen for you to be able to survive in this environment? And the it's like, what's the nature of the spells in the in the environment? What's how to use magic spells to explain to a player, you can do this now. You have this control. You have this power. But now guess what? Now you walk through this doorway, through this barrier, and you're at the bottom of the ocean, and it's cold and it's crushing you, and you are taking damage, and you can die unless you can get out of that situation. If you have access to magic, how do you make it happen? You have 6 seconds. So with gaming, I'm a huge fan of WebDM, and just so shout out to Jim and Pruitt. Like, you guys are just thank you. Thank you for like explaining this hobby, in like just amazing detail. So thank you, gentlemen. What are you presenting to the player, and how can the dungeon master, explain it to the player? Because I think the idea is that the dungeon master, you're the creator, you're the writer, you are presenting to the audience, the people sitting there. Okay, you are walking around in this environment. You can do things in this environment. You can talk to people in this environment. These people have things going on. It's like, and whatever random person. Well, here's the books. If you just like want to get down to like, well, yeah, you talking to whoever. Look down the list. Yeah, you're this person. Roll the dice if you don't, if you want to take a chance on it. And so that's the idea of 20-sided die, 1 through 20. 1 is a fail, like conceivably a failure all the time. 20 is conceivably a success all the time, right? But in not all cases, because what if that I can do my utmost, which is measured according to this die, this chance, but there's something more that's required. And so that's why, like, this sort of in the book Storm King's Thunder, now it's this environment where you are presenting to the players like, okay, you are in the land of giants. They have doorways sized for giants. These doorways separate their rooms. These giants live in this environment, and they follow these things, and this is like their lifestyle. You as a player can walk in there and say, okay, I'm going to interact with these giants, and this is a narrative, presented to the dungeon master, the game master, of the giants and what they're doing in their lives. The players say, I want to do this or that to these giants. I want to fight them, kill them. I want to convince them through leverage of some sort, because otherwise I will kill their children. And it's this, okay, hey, potentially you can kill these children in the game. And to present to players like, all right, you have this option, can you do it? I'm watching Critical Role, and they present to one of the players, you can kill one of the children. So beginning of the second campaign, and they realize, like, all right, this is going to be the years-long campaign, and you're going to have these voice actors. So, like, millions of people are watching this show, these guys, and so it's like, it's interesting how, so do you as the audience, because like millions of people are watching Critical Role, and just continuing to watch, and then creating, the artists are watching the show, and because it's the idea of, you are presenting to the player, it's killed or be killed. I lose people. So that's how you can look at the environment, and that's how a lot of people will do whatever. And as a result, you have fights to the death. So, and that's the game. Like the idea, like, all right, you can have fights to the death at any moment, and here are the rules to determine how that fight's going to go, how that fight's going to end up, and are you prepared for a fight? And so, otherwise, like, well, hey, what if I just like, the narrative of my character is, he goes over here, he goes over there. These are the servants who interact with the character. These are the people who work, interact with my character. Can I convince them to do things for me? Can I dupe them? Can I deceive them? And that's where rolling the dice come in. It's you go by the character sheet. You go by like what things are on this character sheet, and that I can present to the player. It's like, hey, here's your chance to roll the dice on this, thing in your life. Are you prepared to survive it, or be successful at it? Think of this as sort of basic information of like starting being a dungeon master, game master. If you're ever thinking like, well, I can never see myself doing that. When the hobby starts taking hold, and you start reading the books, and like, all right, what can I do with this? How do I make this happen? And then like, okay, well, what are the different environments I can present to the player? And who are the different characters in this environment? And if they're all powerful, like a dragon or a giant, how do I get to the point of like, well, I understand the politics, and I can speak to this giant, this dragon, and either one or two outcomes will happen, but chances are one of those outcomes is we don't necessarily fight to the death. Like we can exist together. So the yeah, I'm talking about different things. Do you want to go back to talking about Gang of Daggers, the TV show? Because like what I want to do for a Gang of Daggers is, I want to have this high school, and then from the high school, they're going to go to either the wilderness or primitive society. And the idea that the way I conceive of primitive society with magic is, you do potentially have wizards walking around, but in some cases, they're not doing anything. They don't want to be involved in anything. If there's like, well, what could be considered a hedge wizard, think of a guy just taking care of health, medical, but also like, just like, well, we need some wise man who can knows the day. They know distances. They whatever. Yeah, medieval. They like there's like a little local borderline witch doctor is one way to think of them. And but they're a wise man too. Like they have whatever information, but they have a lot of things which they basically, it's just a piece of wood. It's a whatever thing, hat they put on you. Or like whatever, blanket they put on you. But then there's also like a lot of, well, here, drink this tea. Whatever concoction, right? And it's always like the okay, so like I'm a proponent of like multi-ingredient teas would be like just something that's like, oh, this is common for the medieval. Like, how do you like? So, how do people interact with each other? Would you like tea? Um, the because the idea of like, well, you're drinking clean water that's flavored, and the ingredients of flavor are local natural ingredients of the land, and the herbs and spices. And the idea is that there's different kinds of tea. You have tea for, um, so I'll go through it. Let me explain the teas I would have for whatever situations. Morning teas. These are the teas where the tea gives you energy. So there's something in the tea that give me this benefit for the day. And even if it's something that like just speeds up my heart, yeah, let's go for it. Let's get this energy going. Ginseng and ginkgo biloba, or ginkgo biloba. I apologize for mispronouncing the name. I misspell it as well. Maca, and the and potentially even put honey with that tea. Then the second tea would be something with ginger in it, and then switch between those teas through the day. But anyways, that's a breakfast tea. A lunchtime tea would be something with ginger, and then also like something as a dessert tea, so more of a juice related tea. And then dinner time, the no. That's try to avoid because remember this, cider is a cleaner, or I mean actually I'm sorry, yeah, I'm thinking of apple vinegar. Apple cider, yes, totally. I keep apple cider is like an excellent all around low grade alcohol drink that people would sit around and just enjoy, and you just have a big old barrel of apple cider in places, and it's almost like a free booze for the community, because anybody walking in and out, like, oh, they have access to the apple cider, like just have a clean cup that you dip in there, and it's almost even like it's something like you would drink in the morning if it's really cold out. And evening teas is now there's different teas I can talk about and recommend, and like I realized something that there's a tea called kava, Kava, and it's a root, and it's a great relaxer, muscle relaxer. But then I finally read on that WebMD, that it affects people with mental health issues, like especially related to depression. And like, oh man, I can't drink that tea anymore. Yeah, like, but that tea relaxes, but could also potentially cause erectile dysfunction. It's okay. The different teas. So end of the day teas, chocolate rooibos tea, and I guess, and then with chamomile tea at night, and like that's just basics. Like this would be the healthy teas to drink during the day, and these would be the teas you would offer and expect with somebody. So just with that understanding, like if you're offering somebody chamomile tea, it's like, hey, go to sleep, is the meaning of this tea. And then like, well, why do I want you to go to sleep? There you go, up to you to decide. But it's that understanding of culture and relationship between two people that you can just that's how you integrate tea into whatever thing you're doing. Anyways, what are we talking about? Yeah, so what do you guys want me to talk about? Gang of Daggers. The idea of a Gang of Daggers is when I have my plan would be to hire a bunch of basically the people who need a GED, people who like they've had to like they couldn't finish their high school because they had to go to prison, juvenile hall, whatever experience, and like just had like a rough time of it, and like they are like even if they're facially messed up and scarred, because I'm thinking like I'm gonna get these people like, hey, you live on this other planet because you've had a rough life and it's just a rough environment. This is where, and it's like you accept life is tough. So you accept life is tough. You're you have the scars to prove that you survive anything that was thrown at you, and here come these yahoos from another planet who think they're better than you, and who maybe they know magic. Well, if they know magic, and if I don't like magic, whatever. Like, so this is like a sort of I have a combat system that I'm going to film that I think would work, and because like I want to make the combat just as close to realistic as I can achieve, and it's of just train these guys. It's like every morning I'm training actors to how to stage combat, and just like have a whole troop of them, like just do a military style. Everybody's spaced out, however many feet apart, and like, all right, take a weapon in your hand and just train with that weapon, like swing it around, and because when you get to the point of like do what's called the Terminator to 150 and just to sound off every time. That's like what I did when I went through basic training, and it's like and just imitate the voice of Max Cavalera of Sepultura, just like and just understand like what is it that I am doing to get to this point. The other reason why you join the military is because like it's the idea of basic training is that it's a survival course. Like ideally we're training you to survive. Why are we training you to survive? Because what if one of your body parts breaks and you are in hostile territory and you need to take care of yourself? And like so what do I have on hand to help me achieve that? I read Robert Heinlein's Starship Troopers, and like right as I was starting basic training, and I realized like, oh, this is I understand what he means by like the time they get to the end, like of their training, like just what is the level of their training, what will they have achieved? But I don't know, like just kind of it pepped me up, if anything. And I read Black Hawk Down, which is really good. And I just happened upon a book. It was of a serious analysis of different Russian encounters with foreign adversaries at different major times in their timeline, and one of those happened to be in Afghanistan, and like so 2001. The right after September 11th, I was in the office reading that book. But anyways, so why am I a good game master? Because like I think I've read and understand all the levels of combat, from the guy in the trenches, like how do I survive in the trenches, like, well, like Patton said, just don't be where the enemy wants you to be. Like, how do I control and manipulate the enemy to do something stupid, to put themselves into harm's way so I can kill them or disable them. And so like that's why the military is this, it's a tool. Like you get a group of people together, they are no longer individuals, they're a tool that can be used to accomplish anything. Get a crew of people together, and you can engage in construction. What can you do with construction? You can take a hole in the ground. You can build a power plant. You can build a house. You can build, fusion reactors. I have an idea of like how that you can do all of that. Because I built a gas power plant on the border of Mexico and San Diego, and it was an amazing experience. Dyna Electric. Thank you guys for that experience. Or no, it was Dyna Electric. Dyna Electric was my first company for building solar panels out in the deserts of Imperial County, and they're a great company. They let the employees go to Petco Park, and like thank you guys for that. I need some water. Oh boy. All right. Okay. So. Slight tilt of the camera, unfortunately, which I need to. Oh my goodness, what do I do? What do I do? Do I put you elsewhere? I guess I put you over here. How do I look? All right, can you hear me? All right. Happy New Year. So, I'm trying to entertain. I hope I'm trying my best. I'm talking about A Gang of Daggers, and I want Native Americans to be involved in this show. Shout out to my Native American Aboriginal peoples of all backgrounds, because I want all backgrounds available to participate in this show. And you guys are going to be the actors. They're going to help in creating the other environment, this fantasy world. Because my idea for the native, there's a native population living in the environment of this fantasy world that this takes place in, and these guys are just what we film, because this is my idea that I'm creating two companies with this production. One is the Hollywood company, and then the other one is this Native American company, because we are going to film all sorts of different projects with this Native American company. One of those would be like just documentary style. What were Native Americans doing? How did Native Americans do? Like what would they build? What would they create? How would they dress? How would they accomplish? What would they harvest? Like what are how would they engage in their environment in this way or that? Let's make a documentary about that. Let's film that. And listen, me as a creator, what I wanted to do is go to a bunch of Native Americans and say, take all the just different amazing things and traditions and ideas and cultures, and let's see, like, well, can we just present that, and would it make sense with these people here? Yes or no, whatever. Because let's try something cool. Can we make this thing? Like, would it work? Because if it fails, it fails. If it succeeds, it succeeds. Trial and error. Because, like, yeah, these guys are just like living and existing in this environment. They're the background that is like the fabric of. These guys are like the background of what is the fabric of this environment. And now this is training for what this Native American company is doing. They're going to be making a lot of movies and documentaries and shows about different Native American tribes in the Americas prior to colonization. And like, so my pitch for the first TV show for this Native American company is these are where we go to this part of the Americas and say there's a tribe of people that are living here. How are they living? What was their mythology? Like what is the story that these people tell themselves? And then say, like, okay, what do we know about the history of these people on this land? Like, what do they migrate here? Like, at what point? What were the circumstances? And who were some like key historical figures in their their history? And what was happening? Like, for whatever, like go for a dramatic story, because just how do you get an audience if people watch something, have a dramatic story? So how do we present this dramatic story to an audience and make it convincing and interesting, and life and death, right? Because audience want to see life and death. I'm going to create a stage combat system that, using digital cameras, because the idea is that I want the fights to be realistic in terms of these people are wearing armor, they're using weapons, and if they go at each other, they start fighting. Can they kill each other, or injure each other, or force people to, like, well, I want this, no, I want this, let's fight it out. Are you going to run away? Do you have a chance to run away, or will you die on the battlefield? So, as a pitch for the TV show, the fight takes place either at a sort of distance or close up, and you don't see the cameraman. And the outcome is determined by the skill of the actors. So this is where, like, this company of stuntmen are going to be coming in, because like, for these stuntmen, what I'm saying is we create this stage combat system. Like, we get professional wrestlers, ballerinas, just weapon masters from all backgrounds. Just get these guys to just a collab. Let's come up with some ideas. Let's try different styles, and but I'm kind of thinking like, all right, well, you'll figure out like a couple different weapons, like spear, one-handed sword with a shield, and like what you're seeing with Vikings, um, and like as far as bows and arrows, like well, you may use bows and arrows, but like just certain circumstances would you use it, because like you need skill to use a bow, because like all the weapons are like, oh well, how much time do you have to play around with the bow? Um, the versus like the other weapons, and like so. Um, I gotta sorry. Like I have different topics because I have different audiences, and it's like one of the audiences I'm trying to appeal to is like people who are interested in role playing games and fantasy games and whatever games. So I apologize for jumping around on different topics, and in my whatever. Happy New Year, Dr. Modi Sarkar. Just two of you guys. So with the with this Native American film company, we can create even long form stage combat, like just wars and battles, and just like like New Mexico had this like interesting history going on. It's just like all over the Americas, like just every tribe had this experience, and like sometimes with other tribes, and some of them were just like just epic, like bloodshed moments, and you're like, whoa, what was going on here? Like, why did we get to this point where like, all right, let's use the technology and access to resources we have, and just like, let's battle it out. The and so go on a because I'm jumping in from different topics. So for the stuntmen, you guys are going to learn here's a stage combat system. Here's ways you can fight each other. There's two teams. It's like everybody trains together, but then we separate. And there's two teams, and one of these teams, they're new guys, they're fresh guys. They have skills. They're good at it. They look good. They have all their teeth. And they're just going to do like Tai Chi. They're gonna yoga. They're gonna play soccer together without talking to each other, and like they're gonna like just train and just do like, okay, you guys work as a lethal team of just elite fighters. And then there's everybody else who are the red team, and the red team are the guys who like we get better at this combat style, and we figure out just how to get even better and better and better at it. And we fight as teams, we fight as groups. And so when there's an army or soldiers or bandits or whatever sort of opponent you would come across in this fantasy environment, here are some stuntmen with weapons, with armor, who are ready to go toe to toe with whoever is crossing their path. And who's crossing their path? Like, well, this little who knows what these guys? This is the dagger. My idea of the dagger is these are these elite guys in this environment with weapons, and they're on another level. And so, what's that other level? Well, give these guys technology and just mask it, hide it, use magic to like, oh well, they have earpieces, they there may be a camera involved, or use a drone, like like they as a result, they know just that extra level of knowledge of what's going on. And the so the viewer watches these guys just like do different things. And there's a cameraman, like, well, you just edit that guy out, but like what I want to present to the audience is, all right, you're going to see these guys be in battle, and hopefully they survive. And what happens to the storyline afterwards. And so this is the really rough high school. Well, people die, and just the story they don't hear about is like, well, one of the people who just happened to die was part of this gang, this special gang in the environment. And who is that gang made of? Nerds, bottom of the social ladder. Just people who you would not expect a lot from, other than to be smart. So it's the guys who, they are smart. They know to be smart. They know, like, just analyze and understand what's going on. And so, like, in my opinion, why are people going to watch this show? You're going to watch an actor transform, become three different sort of versions of a character. They are the noob, the young, just fresh to an environment. They don't, and they're going to be quiet because they just like, all right, I'm learning from the masters. I'm learning how to behave in this environment. I'm learning what's important. So that's, the first year. They're the background, characters. The second year, all right, they've spent a year, and the school year they train. The breaks, the summers, they go to this other planet and become mercenaries and engage in these battles. And they have to kill people. They have to survive battle and campaigning and marching and riding horses and whatever sort of deadly things that they encounter. The audience, get to watch that. You get to, like, so conceivably there's an action adventure movie that comes out every summer, and because I'm like in my vainglorious thinking that like a lot of people are going to like this show, and they're going to want to participate in this show. They are going to want to say, hey, have a summer camp, and I want to go there and I want to train with the actors, and I want to learn how to stage combat, and just train me as much as you can in a couple weeks time. Get me to whatever level we're like, all right, I'm a foot soldier in your army. Like, that's how good I can be. I'm not as elite as you guys. And the reason why I'm not as elite as you guys is because I'm actually going to fight you. You're actually going to be one of the people involved, and and whoever it is, and because like they'll be the main stars, and then there'll be the bad guys, the kill team, the red team, and like, what level and rank of skill would you see in the kill team? And like, just these guys who train all day long with all these weapons. Like, so yeah, this is why I think it'd be fun, exhilarating, exciting to audiences to watch this show. A Gang of Daggers. You get to see different storylines. The way I envision and think is the way to go is I'm going to look through all the headlines of the newspapers and just say, what are the worst storylines? And we talk to people, we get their story, and we say, okay, how can we write this into, the show? And even because conceivably, I'm even thinking that the way I would go with the show is, well, what is the story of the kid who died on the first day of school? Let's show that. What about the story of the kid who died on the second day of school, the third day, the fourth day? Let's show that. Let's show different storylines like, and as rough and as brutal as they can be. But that's one of the storylines you're seeing in A Gang of Daggers. Just these, true life. This is what happened to this poor child who died in the United States of America. Like, what was leading up to that? And the reason why there's sort of 8 storylines that you're watching, but you're not watching them all at the same time, or you're seeing A Gang of Daggers, and then you're seeing these other storylines of people who do not engage in the fantasy of the dagger. And these people, they're part of gangs. They just like all sorts of I'm like prepared to show the audience, the viewer, like, just this is the worst that could happen to somebody, and they survived, and they kept going, but then it ended. Then this is just like, this is where it stopped. Because and then there's the idea that, like, well, we cannot show all of them, so what's the most average? What's the common? And like, we will use 1 or 2 examples, people we could talk to, and like, what are the details that we can use to help just get through. Well, this is the person, this is the environment, this is this thing that happened. So my idea in the pitch of this show is that I'm going to hire a bunch of young people who potentially have records, but they have potential and they have skill, and they've decided, like, hey, I want to actually learn more skill, because the part of the idea I'm thinking of that. So where do you go on location for these alien worlds where these guys are doing whatever? Well, farmland, and just, hey, we're going to do something on this bit of farmland. And there's there may or may not be trees over there, and like, or we're in the desert or wherever. Like, there's ways to do it, and ideally, conceivably, let's see, there's a live action role playing, LARPing, which people engage in. Like, a lot of people who are like that, they'll love this show and they want to be part of it. And because like depending on how it would be a small city that this production team is going to become. So how do you maintain the small city of people who they're making this show, but they're also creating the sets and items used on the show? Basically, forged in steel, forged in fire. Like, just they learn how to build things, they learn how to ironsmith things, they learn how to work with animals, and you get to we film this, we get to see this happen. This is the environment that this primitive whatever world they're engaged in, and it's always happening in the background. It's like, yeah, it's just and as part of that, and to the point, like, get to sawmills and production, on a whatever scale. It's the actors, or the people participating in this show. They're training in this stuff. They're learning this stuff. They're learning all these skills. So we're taking people who, hey, this guy they have a criminal background. They were whatever sort of failure in life. Who knows what they could be? They come across the hiring person's desk, and it's like, you want to be an actor on this show? What's your skill? What's your talent? What do you got? Do you have something that you can present and give that, like, yeah, we can use you in this environment? And so, like, what sort of environment would that be? So this where, like, this would be an interesting thing. I'm thinking of. So the offer I'm presenting is that, like, hey, we're going to train you to be actors and stuntmen. and you're going to learn how to fight with weapons, stage combat, and like when you watch 300, we're going to like try to recreate the real thing of that. Like, what these like, so epic battles, could you see these guys like, all right, they were doing this or doing that, and how can we play it out? How could we just show that and get a large enough group of people together? Because like with Alexander, it's like, yeah, it's all right, good job. So what else? What other battles can we get? What level can we get to? And I want to train a bunch of actors. Like, yeah, because there'll be the people who will go through a sort of 4-year school, and out of this 4-year school, you have people who they know all these different manual labor skills, manufacturing skills, clothes making, even animal working, and then on top of that, film production, and all the things that go along with film production, which is like just about everything, which includes camera work, writing, acting, and entertainment industry. So like it's depending on the personality of the person that comes in, that is hired, they ideally, like we're only getting these like just all right people who are redeeming people, like, yeah, this is the start of your new life, new career, and whatever you're going to do. This is the offer of the show, is that you come in and you're like, I want to be this or that sort of character on in front of the camera, who's a member of this school that's the roughest school in America, and like we're gonna graffiti it up, we're gonna like trash it for whatever reason. So my other appeal for this show, this television show, A Gang of Daggers, is we're gonna have special episodes for Halloween and April Fool's Day, and so like for the Halloween shows, the idea is, and I think this would take up a lot of production for the year. That's like what when we're filming at the school. What does the school look like? Like, well, it's being filmed for this horror episode that we're going to create for the show. And again, so what sort of horror will we create like this year? And how much time will we spend filming that? And then the April Fool's show would be, all right, well, something happens and like, oh, April Fool's. So like how much production value go into that? And I think those would be like, just the fun shows. But then the rest of the time is like, all right, it's these just rough, how are these guys living? How are these guys living like in a lifestyle that like, well, there's violence potential. And like that's the show and story I want to present. So that's the basic show of A Gang of Daggers. From that, I have all these guys who, after 4 years, they got the GED, because we're filming a high school show, so there's classes going on. So these guys are like, oh, we're just you're in class. here's the class lesson for you. And then like at odd times, we talk to these actors, say, hey, yeah, that really bad experience you had in high school, tell us about it, share it for us, recreate something that happened, help us understand, like, what did you see, what happened, and like, how are people acting, let's recreate that, for the audience to understand, like, well, this is bad stuff, here are bad real life experiences. The idea of A Gang of Daggers, well, when the show does interviews, we will send out 3 of the actors, one of those actors will always be a woman, and one of those actors will always be non-Caucasian. Um, you almost fell off a train once. Wow. That's hardcore, man. So what am I talking about? A Gang of Daggers. Why are people going to want to watch it? Because it's the four corners of the entertainment or the audience spectrum that will be interested in this show. Because you're going to have history, historical, and just, this is living by, the sweat of your brow and the muscles on your body and your drive to live and survive in this environment. Like this is how people live. However many years ago, like without technology, without whatever abilities present to them, and yeah, like the TV show will present that. Will present like just these rough people missing limbs, people like just suffering whatever deformities. Like how do they get by? And that'll be on both sides of the fantasy gate they use. It's like on Earth, you'll see homeless people, and even like just we'll write out scenarios of any sort of thing that you would see on the street, or with one of these random kids that you see going to this high school. Why are people going to want to watch it? The action. The idea that you have this army of people who know how to fight, and that army is going to get bigger and bigger each year. So you have more people who can have as armies fighting each other. And we can do historical films with this army of trained stuntmen who know how to fight. And we can do these fantasy films of trained stuntmen who know how to fight. And we can grow just what is combat and show that to the audience, and use the drones, use that like just cameraman is right there in the thick of it, and edit things together. And like, all right, well, don't you have people in either the full green, and like, all right, well, how long does it take to edit that person out, and how long does it take to train that guy to operate in this environment where there's combat going on, and how long does it take for us to like, all right, well, we have to not make eye contact or something. Or like just try to ignore this camera guy, because we're not there for the camera, we're there like to live and die, because that's what the audience is going to want to watch. How are these guys surviving combat? And I have a first person view of this. An eye level, their perspective. What's the battlefield? I'm with my friends. We are trained to fight. We are really good, and how we learn how to fight, and how we fight together. So we are the elites. A Gang of Daggers, one of these storylines is it's a focus on this elite, group. So the way I'm conceiving of it is, well, this is where the child actors come in. Let's get these young guys, say, okay, anyways, here's a new role for you where, and this is why, because like, well, they're not from a stuntman background. And so how do you get people involved in this stage combat style without permanently injuring them? But also like, understanding like, well, how do these guys in professional wrestling do this thing where they beat up their bodies for a couple of years? Well, guess what? we're going to put armor on people. So what can we do with armor on people and weapons that like, all right, well, we have to, because a lot of stuff like, well, what, how do you stab people? You kill people, stab people in the face. So how do we get around that in a stage combat system? Can we have the people move us like half a step slower? And the reason why half a step slower is because, well, you can speed up the camera. You can do a camera trick, to make whatever happen. And like if you just train, the stunt people, like, well, we know how to fight. Now we purposely slow it down a little bit. We control how we fight for the camera. So I don't know. That's just one idea. I'm just curious, like, could that work with stuntmen? And so, yeah, all this hair, I'm going to donate to Cancer Society. A Gang of Daggers. Why are people going to want to watch it? Young people are definitely going to want to watch it because, like, oh, it's teenagers, me, and even kids younger than teenagers, because like, all right, I'm gonna become a teenager. What's life like, for teenagers? And it would be an evergreen show because at any point somebody is going to want to watch it from the beginning, and even to the point where like if somebody just happens to like randomly watch one episode, they are going to watch the whole thing because they're like, what is the story? Why, I thought this show was about something else, but one episode is like, well, no, here's the like really deep, this character is having this tremendous experience in school and it's probably really bad. So here's the other, my promise for the show is that not all the storylines are going to be bad. My belief is start with the worst, but then show the better. Like, this was the worst scenario. This is how the scenario could have been better. Here's how the scenario had these other challenges. This is how the scenario ended up better. So it's just, yeah, that's a question of like, well, how much content can you create, and how much are you focusing too much on just showing the tragedy that this character is encountering? So, anyways, I think I need to cut out for a moment. Hello, Prince. I'm a live-in caretaker for my mother. She's a retired high school art teacher from Calipatria and El Centro, California. She also taught in uh, Pasadena uh, back in the 60s and into the 70s. She was a student, in from Boyle Heights, which is inner city Los Angeles. She grew up with the Cholas. She came to the poorest um, community in Southern California and dedicated 25 years of her life, 35 years of her life, from 77 to 2006. I forget exactly. Um, but, and before that, 10 years in Pasadena. And so she is an invalid because she got poor care for her cancer, breast cancer, uh, 2012, 2013, yeah, 2013, 2012. And so my father is not able to provide the care for her. I have to help her up and downstairs, feed her, drive her to the gym. She's going to be receiving knee replacement surgery. She needs to move. And I'm trying to find a place for her to move to. And then when that is finished, I'm going to go back to construction as an apprentice electrician. And so A Gang of Daggers. Why would people watch this show? If you watch The Wire on HBO, this would feel like a similar show. Because you're seeing different groups of people who are working towards different goals. And so one of those groups of people will be a member of this gang on Earth. And, just like the rough and tumble life, and like, how does this gang member's life end? So I think that, why would people watch? So so what else can I say? What else can I talk about? Otherwise, I can talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And how do you get to the point of... so I'm reading Storm King's Thunder, and the basics of Von and Dodd. What is this giant metallic construction that you can build, or that is built by the fire giants, and is something you can use to fight dragons. So as a dungeon master storyteller, how do you present? What can you do to the player? And it's like, okay, well, you achieve this thing. You're able to create this thing, and you can control it and do whatever with it. And anyways, what am I talking about? To switch back to A Gang of Daggers, as the show creator, if I was, the way I'm thinking of doing it is, all right, so what does each episode go on, or what is each episode like? And so now these guys are in this fantasy environment, there's a war going on. There's enemy soldiers around that they can encounter. And so like, all right, but what is the narrative? What is the story of like how these guys come together? So I have this separate group of trained actors who know how to stage fight, and then I have the kill team. I have all these other stunt men who are trained to fight, and they are going to be the opponents of this little team. So how difficult will they be? How many people am I going to take from this pool and throw at these actors? And like, will they survive? Will they run away? Will they take injuries? And like, the idea is that the actors themselves. So that's the other thing, that the actors are they have to play it by ear on the field of combat. What do they do, and how do they survive? So if more than one person dies, because they all chose poorly, okay, it's going to happen. And then that actor goes away for a little while, and then they reappear on the kill team. Okay. Still only two viewers. Thank you guys for watching. So A Gang of Daggers. I can tell you about the storyline that I have so far. Yeah, so like because this video is also an appeal to investors. Who would want to invest in me? Who would want to work with me? Mr. Tyler Perry, sir, work with me. I want to do a series about the Haitian Revolution, and train a bunch of actors like this. We will film it. We'll play it out, and it will look realistic. And people just, we will blow people away with this amazing thing. And like, why do I appeal to you, Mr. Tyler Perry? Because like, apparently you have like just an amazing amount of money and a desire to just do a lot of stuff with a lot of people, give people jobs, help people out, and you've proven that over and over again, sir. And like, so this is my appeal to you, sir. Like, work with me. And like, why do you want to work with me? Why should you work with me? From this whatever random video that I'm posting online, is like, I'll be honest with you. I'll work with you honestly, and I'll give you like 100%. Like, I will just work, and just like, what more can I do? Like, because this is art that we would be working and creating together. Like all these different shows and ideas we would make in film. So yeah, my pitch and appeal to Tyler Perry. What else can I say about A Gang of Daggers? So the basic storyline. That I can see is, you give a little smart group of kids access to magic, access to this other world. You can do whatever you want in this other world. So, well, let's be mercenaries. Let's be what's considered respectable and strong on this other world. All right, so we're a group of people. We have a leader. We have a whatever insignias, and we are recognized as being badass elite fighters and killers. And we're in an environment where skill with a weapon gets you a lot of respect and gets you paid. And like, so what do these guys want to do with their group, their reputation, what they're known for? What kind of individuals do they want to be known for on this other world? Or like, hey, they can kill people based on whatever sort of situations. And they're really good at it too. And so filming, just these badass, fighters on this other world, and then like now bring them back to Earth, bring them to a situation like, well, maybe they have access to, hand knives, or maybe a handgun, uh, you know, armor, or probably not, but like whatever clothing that they can, wear. And like, all right, well, now they are encountering each other on the city streets, fighting it out. Who comes out on top? So, what else to talk about? A Gang of Daggers. The So audiences will tune in, they'll see their story portrayed on the show, and because it's America, we show everybody from every background, every home situation, every heritage, warts and all, and just say like, okay, here's the production that we made. It's real, it's realistic, and we produce like quality actors and people of skill and people of respect, from this program we've created with all these, whatever disadvantaged individuals. And we say, okay, this is this, great show that I'm giving you, the investors, opportunity to become involved in. What's the product that's created? Like just multiple CDs of material, because we will have access to all this film footage, and like a lot of characters, and it's like just a lot of stuff that's happening each week. We don't add all of it to what's on the television show. We present to the audience like, hey, if you want, and you pop in this DVD and say, give me so-and-so's storyline. Like just scroll down, like, all right, so all the scenes involving that character. And so that way, hey, the character started in season 2, they died in season 4. Let me go through that guy's life. What was that guy's home life? And like, so you would see other things that just, what's his character's background? What was his character witness to? What sort of epic things does this guy see? So I think like audiences will like that, or like there's certain audiences that, like, they would appreciate, like, yeah, give me this detail, give me this just stronger, deeper narrative, and like that's running at the same time as this main storyline that this director has. Let me see, like, just what is it? What did that guy go through in his life and his experience with the dagger? Yeah, that's the show. So I'm hoping that's interesting. Yeah, the Native American Film Production Company, and just all these different movies and TV shows that we're going to create. And like just a lot of, and we go all over. Yeah, jobs, like just all sorts of different things and positive impacts we create. Yeah. So, what else? Playing Dungeons and Dragons. So I guess this, like this is the sub topic of what I'm using this video for and talking about, like to help me brainstorm and remember and get back into the Gang of Daggers, because I'm trying to, I guess, display my range of talent because of like understanding construction, understanding building codes, how different people of different skills and trades are able to interact together, take raw materials and say, here's a hole in the ground, here's a house you can live in, here's a power plant that gives you electricity. How did I create it? How did I achieve it? Here are the steps. I can write about it. I can think about it in terms of drama and in terms of compelling entertainment. I can look at all this stuff and say, well, what can we show of this person's life? What do people want to see? What will people think is like, this is interesting, this is compelling, this is the part of their life that I need to see to understand these other things. Like this character, what they're going through, what are they living, how are they achieving and working and getting to the point of like, this is what I wanted, this is what I worked towards, and here's my downfall, here's my failure, here's like where I messed up, or here's where I got injured, or here's where I got knocked down, but then I got back up. I want this to be, so as you're watching the show, A Gang of Daggers, there's the dagger. There's this group of characters in the environment, and they recognize that, hey, we are the elite. And there's 4 tiers of us. There are the freshmen, the people like, hey, we gave you the offer, we gave you the chance to like join us, to be part of this elite, fighting group. The sophomores, you've trained for a year. You understand the risks of this environment. We now are going to start expecting things of you. You are going to need to train other people. The juniors, you now understand that this is your time to prepare yourself for the senior year. Because you need to really establish yourself with the dagger. There's the person elected as the leader of the dagger. You're the captain of the dagger for that upcoming year. And then you have the magic user of the dagger. And then you have the weapon master of the dagger. And then on top of that, you have the different weapons, specialties. It's like, but you have one guy who he can fight with all the different weapons. He knows all the, he's just the skilled fighter in any situation. He knows everything. He's the guy that just, and he can teach you. He, gets you ready. He is the guy that in the training, thing that. So this is like part of what would be filmed is you would see the dagger, these guys training with weapons and learning how to fight as a unit. So you watch these guys, and it'll be probably the opening sequences, the opening sequence and title crawl of each episode is these guys training. Like, what sort of training are they going through each day to day? And what they're filming training is the stuff they will be part of the stuff that they trained with the kill team, the people who, well, those are the guys that they're fighting with. Like they train how to do these things in one place. Now the part that we don't necessarily train. Well, anyways, it'll make sense, in the documentary. I lost another viewer. So part of a Gang of Daggers is you watch the actor go through year by year, change and grow and develop, and go from being some random scrawny kid to a muscled, amazing fighter kid. Men and women, all sorts of backgrounds, and get have them go through this position, see what happens to them, see how they grow and develop as characters, and get to the point of, so they go through life, they're going through as a junior. they've lived, they survived these battles, and they understand what's important and what's at stake, and like keeping people alive and training them hard, and like you have to be organized as a group. And seniors, like, okay, now it's time to survive. Now it's time to, or sort of enjoy making it this far, because the lore storyline I'm going with is that these group of smart kids, they start developing industry on this fantasy world, and they're making products and selling those products on both sides of the magical portal. What can they carry through the magical portal with them and sell on this, on Earth? What can they, buy on Earth real cheaply, take this to other planet and sell it at high value? Just whatever, things like that. And they, in the story, they're generating profit from, creating these goods. And as a result, they're able to go to college, or they pay for their college with the money that's generated from this company that they've created. So they go from extreme poverty and, give me higher education, give me, like the better leg up in the real world, because I've already had the physical nailed down. Now I'm going to go through on easy streak, so to speak, college, taken care of, and then what sort of amazing individual will I become? And so this is the excuse of like, well, why did these older characters come back? And they're able to fight again. Like, how do we get these recurring characters, like, that the audience loves? But anyways, because like I said, this would be an evergreen show that people will go back like, I want to rewatch that guy's life, like, his personality and whatever. This show would also present for, and the idea is that, so every year would be the same, but every year would be different because of the story so far. But every year goes the same because beginning of the year, recruiting these new guys, getting to know them, you're like, oh, well, what kind of person are you? Can we get you to join? Like, what's being filmed is like, can this gang convince these young people, like, hey, join us, join this company that we're like, we train how to fight and then we kill people. Like, give it a shot. You're smart. You're capable. Anything can happen. And like, all right. So these nerds, these social outcasts, get brought in to this gang, and made tougher. And you see them like, all right, they become like soldiers. Then they become like aspiring, I can achieve. I can do anything. I'm really good at what I do. You respect me. You are going to respect me because of how good I am. To the level of, I'm at the top of my game. I've had years of this. I know what we are capable of. I'm a really good fighter. I can take on anybody. I am not. I've faced down every sort of enemy, and I can survive anything that you throw at me. And there's, these guys are the leadership. These guys have to keep this group together, and they have whatever other issues they got going on that they have to deal with. So this is what I would film and put for the show. And whatever computer generated film tricks, but we would build a lot of sets, on location, whatever situation, make it make it look lived in, because like we probably would be having the cast and crew living in these situations or these places. The summer camp, make it, we have like different parts of the country. It's like, all right, we're going to train you here, train you there. And oh, guess what? Now we're going to bus you in to, everybody goes to one location and we do this battle, or fly you in. Sorry, but we'll see. And so that way, yeah, each year the battles get bigger, and yeah, the scope of what can be done gets bigger. And so I'm having all these actors, stuntmen, trained to fight in this fantasy world that only so many people watch. But now we have these guys film these historical periods in different parts of the world. So that would, you get an audience, all those different places. So yeah, that's the other side of the film production company. Is just filming around the world, talking to lots of different people, getting their stories, and be like, okay, what is the amazing thing that happened in this country or at this location or with this ethnic group of people? These people who identified a certain way by a certain name for whatever reason. So let's show these people and let's film it. Let's make an amazing story and film or TV show or whatever about it. Something that people will want to watch. So, all right. Do I get back to talking about Dungeons and Dragons? So Dungeons and Dragons, you're the dungeon master. You're talking to a group of people and explaining to them, like, all right, here's the environment you're in. Here's the environment you get to live in, survive in, battle other people in, and tell me your choices. And I'll tell you the results of those choices. Sometimes it's going to be random. So, and that's where it's, or that's where, in my opinion, the using the character sheet, using the dice, like, yeah, all right, well, what's the random thing? Who knows if it will succeed or fail? Reading through Storm King's Thunder, and like, all right, yeah, it's this epic level of fighting and or potential, like, conflict with giants. It's pretty neat. Like, all right, so what are the rules of fighting with giants? So what do I want to say to people to help them understand Dungeons and Dragons, or being a dungeon master and explaining these things in this environment, because I have to make sure I understand it myself in terms of can I portray to the players, this is the environment you're in, this is the things you can do in this position, and can I keep the story cohesive in my head in terms of what's happening for the players? Because for the players, what the experience is like, and when you can get into it and enjoy it, like, all right, I see the role. I understand, like, what happens in here, what happens there, and what would, how do I achieve success? What's the domino effect that I pursue to have this thing accomplish? So, and it's just figuring out, like, well, how many more dominoes do I want to play with to get involved in that fall over? So it's like, that's the interesting challenge that's there. what's neat about Dungeons and Dragons is that it gives you all these different rules you can explore and use. So I'm going back to, this is a response to WebDM and what Jim was saying about what's more that gets me into Dungeons and Dragons, and power creep. And the thing he forgot to mention was the average levels that players are playing in. And it's like, it tends to be lower levels, just first level on down to 10, thereabouts. It's, yeah, because it's you as a dungeon master understanding like different powers unlock at different levels, and that starts impacting what's going on in the environment. So do I have a story? Can I create a story that, the players, it makes sense what they can do in the environment? What is their intention? How are they carrying themselves through this storyline that I, the dungeon master, am presenting to them? And that's where, like, all right, your ability to think and ability to create, come to play. What else can I talk about Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop role playing game? All right, but also talk about A Gang of Daggers. Why you should watch it. I guess I'm running out of steam. I've been talking for how many hours? 2 hours. All right, I think it's enough. Anyways, thank you for watching, and Happy New Year's.